guys, this is every book I read in 2024. So it's been a second since I filmed a video. I've been kind of not in the mood to film, but I was like, it's the end of the year. It's now January. It's like the middle of January. And I was like, you know what? I want to go through every book I read. And it's like interesting to go back and like see all the books I read, because I did not remember reading some of them in 2024. I felt like I read them like in 2023. I'm excited to go over them with you and like kind of go down memory lane. I will say, I can say confidently that I had a way better reading year than I did in 2023. I think I talked about in 2023 that I struggled and was in like a book slump and like just reading things that weren't something I would enjoy. I was still kind of in a book slump this year, but I think I had a way better reading year and picked up books that I really enjoyed, or stopped reading the books I didn't enjoy. But before we get into the pile of books over here, because there's a pile of them, I want to kind of go over my stats for this year. Kind of go over like how I did. Like, I think it's fun to do stats. I don't think you should focus too much on stats, but I think that stats are fun if you enjoy that kind of thing. Just kind of being like, oh, I did this many books and I didn't realize, or how many books in the genre, or things like that. I think it's really fun. I know some people in their stats, it definitely be like, well, you read this many audiobooks, you read this many ebooks. Well, I can confidently say for sure, before even getting into it, that I read every single book through audio besides one. Very much an audiobook year. Not to say that I didn't like hybrid read, where I like sat with the book and like followed along. That's kind of how mainly my reading year this has been, which is kind of, it's been nice because I've seen the physical words on the paper, but I feel like I've become a lazier reader, or reliant now on the books, because I like can't do very much now while listening to audiobooks. Show plus side, negative side. Before we get into the books that I've read, I just want to go through my stats really quick because I think it's fun. In total, I read 76 books this year, which is crazy because I was closer to my 2023 goal of 80 books than when I read in 2023. And this year I had a goal of 50 books and I read 76. In 2023, I had a goal of 80 books and I read 51. So, or 52. It was like in the 50s. So it's crazy that I read a little bit more. I also think that definitely in play two big like same author series world things that I got into this year. That kind of adds up. So that's fun. So the first one of those is the Zodiac Academy. I got halfway through Zodiac Academy this year. I read 12 books in the ZA world when there's like 28 or something. I don't know. I'm in the middle of ZA and I've read the prequel series. So, little spoilers. That's a lot. 12 in just by one author in one world is a lot. And then I discovered Elle Kennedy and I read everything in the Off-Campus world. So the Off-Campus series, the Briar U series, which is a spin-off of that one by just like some of the other hockey boys. And then the Graham Effect series. I don't know what that series is called, but then it's 20 years in the future with Graham's kids. So that's 11 of those books, and we'll get into those more. I'll tell you like the order I read them in. So yeah, 23 of those books, those 76 were books that were from similar worlds. So that's crazy. So I have like 4 book apps, and I kind of just went through and like wrote down all the fun ones that I saw on there, and we're just going over them. So genres, I read 63 books in the genre romance. These kind of overlap sometimes too, but in like if they wanted to count just the romance, I read 63 books in romance, 36 books in fantasy, 30 contemporary, which probably go with the romance, 15 young adult, and 14 sports, which 14 sports makes a lot of sense because it was my sports college romance year, everyone, especially with Elle Kennedy, and I love it. We'll get into that in a minute. The longest book I read was House of Flame and Shadows on one app and Cursed Fates ZA number 5 on another app. I don't know which one's technically longer. And then my shortest books was Make Your Bed, the only nonfiction book. Another one from a different app was ZA or Origins of an Academy Bully. It's like one of the novellas. So those were the 2 shortest books. My highest average rating month was March, so that means I rated higher during that month overall. And then my lowest average rating month was July, and I rated lower overall, which I read a lot of books in July, and I read way more books in July than I did in March, so I think that has a play into it because there's more books to add. And then my average overall rating was 4.06 stars. I don't know how my book apps calculated this, because on some book apps I can just do basic stars. On other book apps I can do like points. So I don't know how I got 0.06. but it says my average rating was about 4 stars. So, which was exciting. It sounds like I read a lot of good books, which was what I was saying at the beginning of this video. And then my most like popular book that I read that has people have most shelved on book apps was Fourth Wing. So that's exciting. And then the least popular one that I read was To Get Me to You, and we'll get into that. I keep wanting to like explain these books, but I'm kind of doing little spoilers right now. But I just wanted to quickly go over stats and then we can get into the proper books. I read 30 new authors this year, which is crazy to me, especially when 23 of those books are from 2 of the same, like Elle Kennedy and then the authors for ZA. That's crazy to me. And then I read in total 1,020 hours and 54 minutes. I can't say page numbers because I didn't read their page numbers. I listened to them on it, but which technically I could say their page numbers. I think it was like 30,000 pages. And then the month that I read the most books in was November with 11 books. I was definitely burnt out in December. And then the month that I read the least amount of books was April with 3 books. This isn't including of like the current series that I'm in. I'm just in 2024. I started the first book of a series, whether I finished that or not. So I started 28 new series. And then out of those 28 or out of past series that I started in other years, I finished or got caught up with 10 series this year. I DNF'd 9 books this year and I put 13 more books on pause, and they're either going to be DNF'd officially when I like want to think about them more, or they're going to be started over, and if I still don't want to read them, then they're going to get DNF'd. So, or they're going to get finished. Either one. Like I said at the beginning of this video, I read 1 ebook and the rest were audiobooks. I read 49 books that I own this year, which is exciting. That could be 2 things. I owned them and they've been sitting in my library for a second and I finally picked them up, or it was something I really wanted to read, so I bought it and then read it immediately after, which is how, like, it's good. That's really good because I like bought it and I read it. It's not just been sitting. I bought it to read it. And then 44 of those books were audiobooks. The rest they were all like physical books I own, and there is some overlap with that 44 number because there are some books that I own physically and audiobook, and I read them together. So all in total, I read 49 books that I owned. So that's a lot of the 76, so I'm very proud of that. But yeah, that's all my stats. I thought that was fun. Let's get into it. So I don't have every single book that I read here. A lot of them are from the library because I'm a broke bitch and can't buy every book. Also, I read audiobooks. You can't tell, I read audiobooks. And so I don't own, like, you can't own an audiobook. You can, but you can't like, here's my audiobook. You know, I don't know. I will either be holding up a book or I will be putting it on the screen so that you can see. Let's get into it, I guess. Like, I don't think I have any other thing. This has been a long intro and you guys have been waiting to see what I read. So let's get into it. So I have my Storygraph pulled up. It's an app that you can track books on, and it's my favorite tracking app because not only can you say if you read an audiobook or not, and it tracks that versus like regular books, but it also lets me do like 0.25 or 0.75 or 0.5. But like Goodreads makes you only just do the stars. And then I also have an app called Bookmori where I use to track my hours and how many minutes I read a day and how many pages I read a day and things like that. And that only does 0.5. It's only like full or 0.5. So I love Storygraph I like have a certain app for certain things. So I will be looking at my Storygraph as we go through this. I will try not look down at it as much. Let's just go into it. So the first book I read of the year, which I completely forgot I even read this year because I totally DNF'd the series, was Blood Bonds by Jay Bree. In my last video, my wrap-up video, I was talking about how I read the first 2 books in this series and I absolutely loved them. I liked this book. It wasn't quite until the next book that things started going downhill. But I rated this 4 stars. I liked it, but I obviously didn't love it because I DNF'd the series. It was like getting good. Like, there are aspects I really like of this series, and there's a part of me that's kind of tempted to restart it, but there's just a character and things in this series that I just was like, I don't know how he's going to be redeemed because he's such a dick. Like, he's such a problematic character. And then something happens in the end of book 4. Here, I'll just hold them both up because I didn't read them right after each other, but I did read these 2 books. There's a book in between them, but something happened at the end of this series and I felt like it was a cop-out for him being a shitty character and then being like, oh, well, like, he's redeemed now. And I'm like, that was really shitty. Like, the main thing that drew me into this series was how problematic the boys were, and I couldn't wait to figure out how the author redeemed them. And the one that was the worst, I haven't gotten to his book yet technically, but it didn't sit right with me. I was mad. And I just now have a weird feeling towards the series. This series felt like Omegaverse, but just on its own twist, which was really cool. But then it felt like it used that Omegaverse and like mates and things like that to get away with shit that you should probably not get away with. Anyway, so yeah, I rated this one 4 stars and I rated this one 3.75, which I'm surprised I rated it so high. Because like, again, I really like the series. It's just there was that one character that made me really mad and like pissed me off at the end of this book. And then I was like, hey, goodbye, no more. So yep, this is first and third. The second book I read was The Deal by Elle Kennedy. So I went from like this series that I was liking, but it was problematic, to like one of my favorite books of the year. Like, I started off with a bang. I don't know how I topped this book because this book is so good. I gave this book 5 stars. This Cameron Graham has my fucking heart. Like, I want to reread the series. I own this book. This book, like, you can see even the Barnes & Noble. I'm scared to take it off. And I just need to own the rest of the series. I loved it. I loved it. So I don't have the rest of the series here, but in a minute I will kind of get into them. I just won't have books to hold up. But this series, this one and the third one are my favorite. It's so good. If you like sports romance and you like college romance, definitely start the series. This one, it definitely has a heavy topic to kind of deal with the girl. Her name is Hannah Wells. They call her Wellesley. He calls her Wellesley. It's really cute. So there is some heavy stuff. So there is dealing with SA and kind of, I don't want to spoil it, but like the character getting over that and the guy kind of helping her through it, which I thought it was done really well. So yes, I read The Deal. One of my favorite authors now. I need to read all of her backlog, but her backlog is ginormous. So we're gonna slowly get through it. The next book that I read after the 4th book in the Bonds That Tie series was Realmbreaker. This book was a long book in the making. I think I started this in November of 2023 and it took me 3 months to finish this book. It's ginormous, but it's also so much fantasy, so much world building, and I think I wanted at the time something a little less. I know that the cover of this book really drew me in. I don't know what it is about this author. I have tried this book and I've tried the Red Queen series. I couldn't finish the Red Queen series. I struggled through this book. And I think that this author is someone that like I could enjoy. I just think I keep reading him at the wrong times. I don't know. It was just so much fantasy and maybe I was in the mood for romantasy. I don't know what the situation was, but I just like struggle with this book. So I rated this book 3.5 stars. It felt like a giant just setup book. Like there wasn't a lot of action. Like there was action, but like it didn't keep me as engaged as I think it could have. I don't know. It didn't help either that the world's not like, it was just world building a lot. There were so many characters, so many things to keep track of, so many things going on, but I did like it, but I didn't love it. And I don't know if I'm going to continue the series. I will definitely decide that this year. So the next book I read, I was so excited to get this book, was Crescent City 3, House of Flame and Shadows. I went to the midnight release party to get this book. I bought it like at midnight, like in line with everyone else. I was so excited for this book. I read this book in 5 days. You see how big this book is? I read it in 5 days. I needed to know what happened, especially at the end of book 2. So I rated this book 4 stars. But the thing that kind of brought it down for me, and the thing that I forgot to kind of remember and was too influenced by social media, is that this book is a Crescent City book. I was expecting it to be more, without going into spoilers, because I know a lot of people know what the situation is with this book, I was expecting it to have more elements than actually were in the book. And I have to remember that it's a Crescent City book, and Crescent City isn't my favorite series by her. So I went into it being like, oh my God, all these things are gonna happen. And then not a lot of them did. And I was like, oh, well, that sucked. But it was still enjoyable. Like the series itself, I don't know if there's gonna be another book because it like ends, but it also leaves some things open, so there could be a book 4. I don't know. I feel like Sarah's cooking in Sarah's little cave right now, trying to figure out like what she's doing, especially for ACOTAR 5. I want to know what's going on with Sarah, by the way. I want an update of some kind of release, because I know that this one is a huge book and it took her probably forever to write, but I like want more because I love Sarah J. Maas. So it was good. I was excited about it. It sucked having to wait it. It was a little disappointing that not everything that I wanted to happen in this book happened, but it was still a good book. I just have some gripes with it, but it wasn't like, I think I liked it better than the second book, and I kind of liked it around the same as the first book. Giant book, devoured it. So glad I own that version. So after that, this is more of the off-campus series that I don't have with me. I read The Mistake. Loved this book. It wasn't like, I love Logan and Grace's story. It was super fun. I just don't feel like I remember liking it as much as The Deal, but I did like it. I rated it 4.25 stars. I feel like it was lacking a little bit, but it was still cute and fun. And then I read The Score, which is Dean and Allie's book, and I rated that 4.5 stars. I love this book. I love this book. I think there was just some things at the end. So Elle Kennedy's really good at like writing, like you think it's gonna be a rom-com in this cute like book, and then she throws like this heavy matter in there, but it's done correctly. But it's also like, shit, I didn't wanna, because now I care for the characters and now this shit's happening and I'm like stressing. So, but it's intriguing because like it adds like more elements to the story and makes it more deep than just this silly rom-com, which is what I appreciate about this series. I just remember being at the gym and starting to cry, like trying not to cry because I'm like, what do you mean? What do you mean? What do you mean? I'm reading a romance book. I did not sign up for this. So if that intrigues you for book 3, then The Goal is the 4th book in the series, and technically the last book. There's a novella that I read after that's part of the series, but like out of all of the main books, this is the last one. It's Sabrina and Tucker's romance, and I rated that 4 stars. I don't know if I said that. This one was really cute as well, but I do think it was my least favorite. It's a tie. It's like, I don't know if Logan's or Tucker's was my least favorite. I liked both. Tucker's had a trope that I really like, but I just think that it didn't like pull me in as much as I feel like it probably could have. They were all really good series. Like they're all 4 and above. So like even I'm saying like least favorite, I still loved all of them. And I'm missing this world, and I might even want to like reread them because I miss them so much. Anyways, on to the next book. I'm like realizing this video is gonna be really long, but I want to talk about the book, so sorry about that. So the next book I read was An Heir Comes to Rise. I made this whole like TikTok thing about this, about being like how excited I got that the narrator was Elizabeth Evans, and like going to the library and like going on an adventure and getting the book and reading the book. And I did really enjoy this book, but then I was gonna read book 2 and the audiobook narrator changes. So from going from my favorite narrator to someone I don't know, not shitting on the person I don't know, it's just, it made me sad. It made me sad. And so like I haven't finished the series, and I don't know if I'm going to, and I don't know what to do because Elizabeth Evans isn't narrating it. So maybe, and I don't even remember half the shit that happens in this book. I just remember enjoying it. I felt like it was such a good start to a fantasy series, and it has a lot of potential. This is like a 5-6 book series, I think. And I remember like thinking it was like good, and I did like this, and I rated it 4 stars, and I was intrigued to continue, and I wanted to know what happened, but it just, no more Elizabeth Evans, and it made me sad. I remember not like, there was a couple things I didn't like, but I did remember liking the love interest, I think. Oh, it's been so long since I've read this book, so I have to figure out what I'm doing with this series, but I did enjoy it. So the next book was my first Lucy Score book, with Maggie Moves On. I really thought the premise of the story was really fun. It's basically about a home renovator YouTuber going and renovating a house in Idaho, and her falling in love with one of the contractors that she hires. I wanted to like this book. This book had a fun time sometimes, but the main male love interest kind of pissed me off sometimes. Like he had the bare bones to be a great character. There's just some things between their relationship and him that were bothering me. Like I was like, oh my god, yeah, he's a guy who's gonna get what he wants. Like, you know, like he goes after what he wants, which is great. But then it also caused issues, and I felt like there wasn't genuine connection between these characters by the time they got together. I don't know. I struggled through it. I just was like, I just want to finish this. So my first experience with Lucy Score was not great. I do want to try her again because I liked it enough. I rated this 3.5 stars, but I don't know. It kind of was like not my favorite. I definitely have been way more pulled into romances before, and this one just wasn't it, but I liked it. So I am intrigued to try another Lucy Score, but if it's kind of the same feeling, I don't think Lucy Score is for me. So my next book is A Shadow in the Ember, my first and only reading vlog for my 24 books for 2024. I did one, and that was it. I was really in the mood to read this book, and I'm really glad I read it when I did because I love this shit. I was really wanting to read From Blood and Ash, but I was like, I have to read this book, and I kept not wanting to read this book, but I loved this shit. It was so good. Nyktos and Sarah, like I go on a whole rant about this, so go watch that video. So Sorry, my recording cut off. But yes, go watch that video if you want to see me reading this book and ranting about it. I go into spoilers, but I love this book. I rated it 4 stars, which I'm surprised about. I think it's because I love From Blood and Ash more than I did like this book, and I only rated From Blood and Ash 4 stars, which it probably should be higher. Because like, I think about this series. Like, it's a series that's definitely like one of my favorite fantasy series. And so yeah, love this. Didn't love it as much as like Poppy and Castiel's story, but I still liked it. I definitely want to keep reading this series this year. My goal is to get completely caught up with it, so when the next book comes out, I will be ready and I can finish the series. I can't believe I'm going to say that. I'm so far into From Blood and Ash now. I am far into this, like, the world. I'm not finished yet. I don't know what my problem is. And then the next book I read was The Legacy. That is the novella I was talking about for the Off-Campus series by Elle Kennedy. I rated this 3.5. It was not my favorite. I don't know why we needed a book where we created conflicts for short stories that should have been their own book. Like, it should have been a book's worth of conflict resolution rather than a short ass story that didn't give enough conflict resolution. It was like Elle Kennedy wanted to give a little bit more to these characters, which is great because I love novellas and giving me little snippets and little things, but then she gave too much drama to them. Like, every couple had something, and especially Garrett's, which Garrett's my favorite character, and I know, like, I've seen debates about his thing, but I think a lot of us were disappointed by Garrett's story just because the way he acted, which was, I guess, realistic, but then like they didn't give us enough time after the resolution to enjoy like what had happened. So it put a sour taste in my mouth and made me like for like that series, and it was like, god damn it. So I kind of wish I didn't read that series, but then I'm glad I did. There was like a couple of them I liked. It's just that Garrett's story bothered me. So then I discovered my favorite author of the year, which is close because Elle Kennedy was really up there, and I like this author even more. I started books by Cara Bastone. So I don't know if she collabed with Audible. I don't know what the situation is, but she made a series for like short stories that are like graphic audios. So they like have noises behind them, and they like, a lot of it's like dealt with like the characters being on call. So the first book was Call Me Baby. Oh, I love this book. Like, this was the perfect book I needed for the time frame that I was reading in. It kind of was like a light book. It was, especially after that disappointment of the last book, it was just like, it cured my like little bit of book slump that I was getting into. It's so good. Like, I love it so much where I'm like showing my friends. It's so good. It's so good. It's a short story, but I felt like there was enough of the romance and enough of like intriguing things that kept me, like, it was just like, ooh, are they gonna meet? Are they not gonna meet? That kept me intrigued in the story. So it was like 5 hours long, and I loved every moment of it. I loved every moment of it. So then I read the second book in the series. So it's called the Love Line series, and the second book is Sweet Talk, and I love this book as well. This book is about the first book's character's brother, and it was good too. It was good too. But I remember not loving it as much, but I still gave it 4.5 stars. I still loved it. It was still fun. And then I go to another book, but I just, these books are so fun, and I love this author. Every single book I've read by this author is either, I think it's either 4.5 stars or higher, which is high. So like, having multiple books be 5 stars is insane. But I've only gone over 2. I digress. Let me go into I'll get back into that series in a minute. So then I read The War of Two Queens, which is the 4th book in the From Blood and Ash series. I finally was able to get into this one, see what happens from the end of book 3, because that's the whole reason I wanted to keep going, but then I had to jump into the Shadow and the Ember, and now I finally got to read this book. So I rated this 4.5 stars. I did really like this story, but I think there was a little aspect that ruined it for me. So I am discovering that there are a time and place for multi-POV, and there are some that I super like, and there's some that I don't. I don't like that you get the boy's perspective, and sometimes I do. In this book, I understand why there's 2 POVs, but it kind of changed Castiel's character for me. I don't know. I was viewing him differently, especially since he got his own audiobook narrator and it wasn't her narrating it. So then I was like, my brain was just having a hard time like connecting this as the man I loved with the audiobook narrator that was suddenly introduced at book 4. If it was like that the whole time, I would have loved it and fell in love with him. And it just was hard to imagine that Castiel that I had created in my head with the other narrator, the girl narrator, and switch them over. I know that's stupid, but I have such a thing with audio. So I loved the series. I loved everything that happened. It like was intense, and it was like shit, and like holy crap. And this book makes me want there to be a throuple so fucking bad. I want there to be a relationship between Poppy, Castiel, and Kieran so badly. they kind of all love each other, and Castile and Kieran are best friends, and they respect and love each other. So I'm really hoping it turns into that. So yeah, I love this series. There was just some gripes about me having a hard time connecting to the character that I created with this character that was now presented by a different narrator, which is stupid, but that's just how I felt. Oh, I had The Legacy. Here it is. Now you'll know. Here are the other books. But yeah, I could have held this up. Here you go, Legacy. I was like, why is that the next book? The next book that I read was The Kiss Quotient. I loved this book. I rated this book 5 stars. It was so good. I loved the writing. I loved the representation. I loved the romance was slow burning good, and like, oh, this shit was good. I also like discovered at the time that I could have a mental disability that she has, and it like made me feel a little seen, but it also helps me realize a couple things about myself. Like, I'm not like this character. She is a lot more intense on the spectrum than I am. But it just was fun to read, and it was like a book that was perfect for the time that I was going through. And I loved it, and I want to read the rest of the books in the series. I was hearing that the rest of the books aren't as good, but I still want to keep reading books by this author, and I feel like I like her writing, and I'm excited. This book was so good. This book was so good. Like, I need everyone to read it. Like, if you want a fun romance but with some depth in it, here you go. Here you go. And you want some autism representation? Here you go. So the next book I read was Carnival. I gave this 3.5 stars. So I really was intrigued by this book. I really liked this book. The reason I picked up this book was because for my 24 books for 2024, I had pulled the second series by this author that's in the same world but like continues. So I was like, well, I have to read the first 3 books so I can understand the world, because I heard one of the biggest complaints about that second series is that like you go into the world kind of blindly while you kind of need the context of Carnival. So I was like, okay. I think there were 2 things that I struggled with. One was the kind of the, not musical, mythical, it's like the whimsical, there we go. The whimsical aspect, like, I don't know if you know whimsical is the right word, like the way that the magic system is done in this book and just like how it's written, I had a hard time with. It wasn't like I was like super drawn into it. The idea was really cool, and I was drawn in. There was like a plot twist that I was like, I remember posting a story about it on my Instagram, and I was like, what the fuck? But I think the second issue that I had was that I had heard about this character on social media. So I was like, oh, is he in this book? Which I guess he kind of is. I don't know how to explain it. Things got revealed, and I was like really bummed out because I went with what I heard, and I didn't just let the story take me where it was, and I was trying to plot too much, and I was trying to guess, and I was getting too much into this is what I expected the book to be, and then the book didn't turn out to be that way. So it disappointed me. So I think I need to try it again. I definitely am intrigued. I've heard good things about it. I had a friend that just read it recently, and they really enjoyed it. I think I just was in my head a little bit too much about it. I think I just needed to read it. I was trying to be like, oh, is the love interest this guy? And then he wasn't, and I was like, oh. So what I thought was happening is I thought that this book was about one sister, and then the second book was about another sister, and then the third book was about someone else. But I heard that the third book is about both sisters, and now I'm more intrigued to like, oh, so we do get more of these characters in book 3, but I'm intrigued, and apparently you get a lot more answers in book 2, which what I was wanting from book 1, but I was just having a hard time getting to book 2. But I like this book, but I didn't love it. I had some gripes with it, but I definitely want to give this world and this writing another shot. So the next book that I read was Parental Guidance, and I gave this book 3.5 stars. I don't know why I rated it so high, because I liked it, but I really didn't like it. I struggled. I forced myself to finish this book. I read this book because the second book is like accidental pregnancy trope, which is one of my favorite tropes, because I just love the drama that it adds. Like, it's so fun. So I was like, oh, I kind of got into this issue where I was like, okay, if it's a series, whether it's interconnected standalone series or not, I need to read them in order because I need to know who the characters so I can get their little cameos in the next books. I don't need to do that. It was kind of a dumb plot. I don't know. It's about a company creating a dating service where your parents get to choose who you date. Like, your parents get to be really involved in it. And that's weird. I thought they would do, like, they went about it not too bad in the book, but like, it just was kind of strange to me. And it just wasn't my favorite. I don't know. The romance was not there. I don't think they had very much chemistry. I couldn't root for them, so I didn't like it. But yeah, that was that book. So then I was like, I didn't like that book. Let's read a book by an author I do know that I would like. So I read the last book in the Love Line series by Cara Bastone, and it was Seamate. Loved this book. Like, I love this book as much as I love the first book. Like, it's so good. I rated it 5 stars. It was so cute. It was so good. Like, it's literally her just trying to get to a freaking interview and him helping her get there. And it all takes place in one day. But it's good. I don't know how this author does it. She's good at writing short stories, and I read a full story. Like, she's just good at what she does. I don't know. The next book I read was the start of my ZA adventure. So I read The Awakening, the first book in the ZA series. So why I read this, so I had owned this first book for a year on Audible, and I just hadn't picked it up. And then I saw that some people, this one girl wanted to kind of do a buddy read with people reading ZA and like see if she, so we kind of like, I was like one of the first people who was intrigued in doing it. So I kind of helped her kind of create the thing, and we created like a Facebook group, and it was this whole thing, and we all just read ZA together. It was really fun, and I'm glad that that's what helped me dive into the ZA world, because I do genuinely really like it. And it's not the best writing, and it's not the best, but I enjoy it. I think that's the point. I think that the series isn't supposed to be this deep ass, I mean, it's getting kind of crazy the further you get into it, but like, it kind of starts off with kind of feeling kind of fan fiction, not the best writing, but I don't know, it just grows on you. Like, the character development's really good. It is a bully romance, but like, you go from hating the characters in book 1 to loving them in book 4 in book 5. I've gotten up to book 5, so I don't know after that. But yeah, I really like this series. So I rated the first book 3.5 stars. Then I read Ruthless Fae, and I rated that 4 stars. See how we're going up? The first book was definitely hard. It was just like a thrown into this world, and I was like, what the fuck is going on? Because they're called Fae, but then they have different species. It's like Fae's the umbrella, and then they have species in that. So there's like sirens, that's a Fae. They have like werewolf shifters and dragon shifters and all these kind of shifters and all these different types of magical creatures, and they all just fall under the umbrella of Fae. But like, my understanding from fantasy is that Fae is one of the creatures and not the umbrella, so it was kind of hard. But by the end of book 5, I understood, and once I get into book 4, I was like, this is just getting better and better. So then I read The Reckoning, and I rated that 4 stars as well. That was really good. And then the reading guide that we had heard is because in book 4, a character from the prequel series comes in, so I was like, okay, we got to switch over. So I read Dark Fae. I struggled a little bit more with this one. The word that me and my friend used a lot when we were reading this is that this book is a lot more horny than the ZA book. So it was Dark Fae, it's the Ruthless Boy series, and it's just way hornier. It's just way spicier. And I liked my spice, don't get me wrong, but by book 4 and 5, I was like, I'm so fucking sick of the spice. I want to go back to the plot. Especially since the plot of this book is really good, but then the spice and kind of the romance kind of took over the plot. And I didn't love that because I was intrigued to see how this would happen. But like, Elise is the worst ass detective ever. Okay? Like, she sucks at it. Like, she does nothing. Like, she just lusts over boys. Like, so go into that series expecting some just lusty, spicy type. Like, she obviously like stay strong, but I think she was a little less focused on her brother's murder and trying to figure out who murdered him and more interested in these 4 boys that are hot. I don't know. I love this series, don't get me wrong. I got attached to some of these characters. I love Ryder so much. And like, I love, it's the lion shifter. What the fuck is his name? Leon. Love those both characters. I love all of the characters, but those ones were my favorite boys. So I read the first book, and then I think during this time I was like reading it with all this, I read the first book 3.5 stars. Then I read a different book called Icebreaker. So I wanted to go read Icebreaker because Icebreaker went over the internet. Like, it just like was super popular, and I'm like, it can't be that great. It just sounds like a spicy, and I like sports romance books. So I was like, okay, let me read this book and see what I think. I think it had potential. I think the romance was cute. I think it's cute. It's not bad. I rated it 3.5 stars. Like, I did like the romance. I was kind of intrigued. I just think there's way too much sex. I think the sex took away from the plot and took away from the potential of how good the series could be. They just jumped into bed too fast. It was too sex focused. I don't know. It was weird. It wasn't weird, it just wasn't my favorite cup of tea. So then I read Savage Fae, the second book in the Ruthless Boy series, and that I read at 3.5 stars. I liked this book, but then this book like made me be like, I don't know if I want to finish the series. I am struggling with it. Like, I couldn't connect to the characters because it just was too horny. It was too spicy. I was just like, what is going on? Like, we literally just met these characters. Like, in book 1 we met that, like, she literally meets him and starts to be like, and I'm like, bro, you met him 5 minutes ago. and he might be one of the murderers to your brother. What is going on? And so then book 2 didn't help anything, and I was like, I don't know. So then I was like, we're gonna jump into some other series. We're taking a break. Like, I want to continue it, but I'm taking a break, which I'm really glad I did. So then I read On These Black Sands, and I rated it 3 stars. This was another one of my 24 books for 2024. I wanted to like this book. I liked aspects of this book, but it didn't give me the pirate book that I was wanting. I've been craving a pirate book, and it just was not, it didn't do it. I think it will get better from where it ended, and I'm tempted to continue the series. It just, the romance didn't quite hit for me. I don't know what it was about it, but it just was like, it kind of bothered me a little bit. I don't know, it was intriguing, the world was it was intriguing. It just wasn't what I was wanting. I was wanting more action. I was wanting more piratey things. And there is piracy, like they're on the book. They're on a boat a lot, but it just wasn't what I wanted. So I'm tempted to finish it and see if it gets better once like more plot points are introduced. Cause like things are kind of having issues with the romance. So I was like, okay, maybe we'll get better at this point. But I don't know. It wasn't my favorite. So then I think we're on to my favorite book of the year, folks. Like going through the series, like I read a lot of books I liked, but I think this is the one. This or maybe a couple others, but like this one was, like Elle Kennedy is definitely up there, but this one holds the cake. So Cara Passon writes short stories. So I read 3 of her short stories, right? And I saw that she had wrote a full-length book, full-length novel. So I picked it up, and it has one of my favorite tropes of all time, and it's a surprise pregnancy, and it's called Ready or Not. Look at this cover. It's absolutely gorgeous. Like, you can't see it because my freaking light's so bright. But dude, this book is so good. Like, it's so good. Like, I can't explain it. Like, I don't even know. Like, it's just good. The characters were good. I fell in love with the love interest. I just fell in love with it. Like, it's a good time. And I was like, oh damn, she can write a novel. Like, she can write a short story, but she can also write a novel. Like, it kept me entertained the entire time. I think it is one of my favorite books of the year. I don't fully remember everything that happened, but I remember the key moments. Like, their first kiss, way far into this book, which I love some slow burn. Give me some painful slow burn. It was so cute. It's so them. And, like, the love interest is just this golden retriever sunshine man. And this is everything I needed, bro. I was struggling because I read like a book I didn't like, another book I didn't like, another book I didn't like. I was just not reading books I liked. And then I read this book and I was like, this is why I like reading. Like, these are the type of books. Oh, I rated this 5 stars if you can't tell. I want to own this book. Like, it's a library book, and I'm mad that it's not my physical book. Like, I want it on my shelf. Like, it's beautiful. Like, I need to own it. So then I read Vicious Fae, and this is the 3rd book in the Ruthless Boy series, and I rated this 4 stars. So it was the highest rated book so far in the series. I definitely liked this one a little bit more because I think it was getting more into the plot and things were happening, and I was like, oh, definitely really good. Definitely really good. Drama happens in this. It's good. And then I read Broken Fae, and I rated that 4.5 stars. We're getting higher. We're liking the book series more. We're definitely getting intrigued. The authors are, I will say, good at you coming to love these characters. Like, they are good at that. Like, by book 5, I was like, I am stressed about what's happening. Like, it's a fantasy series, so shit's gonna go wrong. And like, they're kind of good at shit going wrong, and you don't trust anything. And I was stressed. I was stressed in book 4 and book 5. I was stressed. And then Warrior Fae was the next book I read, and that was book 4. Also, they're starting to get like long books. This book, I think the ending, like this book, what ruined it for me is because so this series is a polyamorous relationship. She has 4 boys, and she gets together with all 4 boys. I don't think that's a spoiler. And so by book 4, 4 boys are a lot. 4 horny boys is a lot. So they're constantly. And this is the book that I was like, oh my God, can we go back to the plot? I am so tired of penis. There's 4 of them. I get they're insatiable, but like, I'm so tired railing their love interest. I just was like, I'm bored. So that kind of took it away. I liked the ending, but I also kind of didn't like that it kept skipping. Like, it just kept skipping and skipping. And I was like, but it's connected to another series, but they did good enough that they didn't like say any spoilers for the other series. But yeah, so I really like the series. I really came to like the characters. I just think it was way too spicy for my personal taste. So then I read another Kara Stone book. So I finished the Ruthless Boys prequel series to Zodiac Academy. I keep saying ZA, but Zodiac Academy. So then I read Maybe This Time by Kara Stone, 5 stars. This one was a fun short story. It's literally 5 hours and 45 minutes long, and it's just, it's fun. It's fun. It has to do with kind of like time travel, but like in a fun way. She basically gets thrown like through like a freaking like wormhole into like the future, to where like no one exists that she knows, like they're all dead at that point where she is in the future, and somehow she can connect a phone call to the person from the past who knows her in the past to try and save her from stop going into this wormhole or whatever it was. Oh, I'm just remembering it. That was, shit was good. Main male love interest, fucking love him. So then I got back into Zodiac Academy. So we're in book 4 now. I rated this 4.5 stars. I think this is the highest book I rated in the series. The ending of this book made me sob, and I was like angry tears. I was so fucking mad, but I understand how it happens. Like I get it, but I was these authors are good at making you feel things. Really liked it. I think I'm like just trying to speed around a little bit better. Really liked it. I think we're getting into like I was like, oh, I'm starting to like these characters. I'm starting to like, because by book 3 you are as well, but like there's just, I don't know, you want them to be all friends and work together and defeat the common enemy, and they're just not doing that, so it's frustrating. And then I read Origins of Academy Bully. That's the it's told from Orion and Darius's POV, and it talks about something that happens in the past, and it was kind of nice to know that, but I was also kind of bored. I was like, I already know this happens. I didn't really need that much more detail. It did explain some things that like I understood, that helped me understand the characters better, which I appreciated, but I only rated it 3 stars. It was just a little novella. I was kind of bored. It wasn't as important, but it was nice. It was like 2 hours, so I didn't really take that much of my time. So then I was like, I need a break from ZA. That was a lot. I had read a lot within a short time, like especially from Ruthless Boys to ZA. Like I was just consuming ZA, and I was like, I need a break from this world. So then I jumped into The Roommate Situation. So this is a book I got for Christmas a couple years ago from my mom that I just thought was cute from Amazon, that sounded cute, and I was like, let's try it. And it just took me forever, and I just was in the mood to read this, so I was like, let's pick it up. So I picked it up. I rated it 3.75 stars. This one was really cute. It had a lot of potential. I think it was just a little too short. It could have, the romance could have been built up a little bit better, and I think that's kind of what I brought it down for me. The romance was really cute though. Like I liked the characters. I liked that they were kind of this forced proximity situation, but I just kind of wish that there was just a little bit more to the romance. So then I decided, there's a whole video about it, to do a summer reading vlog, because I thought that was a really fun idea. This kind of now goes into my summer reading books. So the first book I read was Summer Reading. I like this, but I think that it was just too summer rom-com-y, like, and it kind of took away from the story. Like, I don't know. It was a summer book, and it's not supposed to be like this really detailed book. I just didn't love the romance entirely. I thought that there needed to be more depth between the romance. The mystery in this book was intriguing, but the romance just didn't fully do it for me. So I rated this 3 stars. So then I read my second ever Tessa Bailey book, and It Happened One Summer. I generally really like this book. I think it's a little spicy, but the premise was really good, and I really liked the characters. That was one of the big things. I got, I was really intrigued by what was happening with the characters. Piper is a good character. She's this rich socialite who has to be forced to go to this small town in Washington or Oregon, and it's like this small like fishing boating town, and it's just, I love to see her in this change of scenery, and she is a good character. She's just kind of spoiled and is a little bit selfish, and so it was fun to see her kind of go into this world and then kind of fall in love with this man. I rated it 3.75 stars, though there was a couple of things I had gripes with. I can't fully remember. It's just the romance wasn't fully there, but the characters were there. I just think we needed to take a little bit of the spice out, but I think Tessa Bailey just writes really spicy books, so I think I'm discovering, I've only read 2 of her books, but I need to read these when I'm in the mood to read spice and not in the mood to read like a detailed, in-depth story. Like this did have a detailed, in-depth story. It just was a little overshadowed by the spice. Then I read my one and only nonfiction book. I was like, let me try and read some nonfiction books and and like get better on like self-help books. So I read Make Your Bed, The Little Things That Can Change the World. I was not expecting this book to be told by like a Navy SEAL. Wasn't expecting that. It was intriguing to hear some of the stories, and now knowing a little bit more about what goes into being a Navy SEAL and his time being a Navy SEAL. But it just was like, it had some important messages in it, and I did think that it was like a good self-help, like kind of realizing like, hey, these are good things to like know. But it just wasn't my favorite. I didn't rate it because it's a nonfiction book about someone's life. I kind of felt weird rating it, but if I had to, it would probably be like a 2 or a 3, just because it wasn't my type of book, but I tried. So I did read that. And then I read one of my favorite books in my summer reading vlog, and it was Daughter of the Pirate King. I love this book series. I think it was light enough of a fantasy that kind of kept me intrigued. I liked the action. I liked the romance between the characters. I kind of liked the lightheartedness of it. The tension was really good. This is exactly what I wanted out of a pirate book. They're just on a ship and shit is happening, and I liked it. Like, I literally don't need, I'm not asking all that much. I just want some fun pirate times. And a quote in this book is from Captain Jack Sparrow. Like, Pirates of the Caribbean is what makes me want to read pirate, and this made me feel like it gave me the vibe. So it gave me everything I was wanting, and I was like, thank God that books like pirate books that I like do exist. I rated it 4.25 stars, by the way. I just kind of forgot about that. So then I read another one. I was trying to keep on to the summer reading, and I read People Meet Me on Vacation. So this was my second ever Emily Henry book. I was really enjoying it, really liking it, and then the end just kind of ruined it for me. So it was really good. So I gave it a 4.75 stars. Like, I liked it that much, but the ending just not quite there. It just didn't quite hit the nail in the head. Like, it just, that's what happened with my other Emily Henry book. Like, I was so close to fully giving it a 5 stars, and then the ending, like this much of it. I was like, not even, like this much of it. And it just kind of was like, damn it. So good though. And then I was like, I need to read more books for my summer reading vlog because I have one more, and I was really struggling with that book. So I was like, you know what, I will read the second book in The Daughter of the Pirate King. When I like finished this book, I did not realize, I don't know, I think I'm just dumb. But this one's called Daughter of the Pirate King, and this one's called Daughter of the Siren Queen. This has a girl with red hair, and this has a girl with red hair. I thought these were about 2 different characters. So I thought they were going to tell a whole entire story in this short of a time in this book, and then they were going to tell an entire story in this short of a book. This ends in a cliffhanger and continues on to this book. I don't know why I thought that it was about 2 different characters, but I did. So I loved this book as well. I loved that it continued their story, and I loved that it was like their story from just a different perspective now. And it just, this book was good, and this book was good. But yes, very good. I rated this 4.5 stars. So then I finished out my summer reading vlog with Never Coming Home. This was my lowest book rated of the year. This is 2 stars. I didn't rate anything else. No, yes I did. I thought this book had potential. I thought this book was intriguing, but it just didn't hit the nail. I think there was too much going on, and you didn't get to spend enough time with each character and actually care about the characters dying. And so it had potential. It just didn't hit it for me. I don't know. I didn't like it. So then I got back into ZA. I was like, okay, I read some fun summary leads. Let's jump back into the ZA. So I read The Awakening is Told by the Boys. I rated it 3.75 stars. This one I had started, and then I was just like, no, I'm done with ZA for a minute. And so I took a giant break, and then I now got back into it. I really liked this book. It was interesting to see this. It made me see the characters in a different light, because it's basically just book 1 told by the boys. And I appreciated that it didn't view my characters of the boys and the girls. It just helped me understand them more. It was like an addition that I liked. Hello, I am back. I'm so sorry if the frame looks differently. It is the next day. And I also am so sorry if you can hear my dishwasher going. It is currently running right now, and I need to film this video. So we'll finish this video because I'm halfway through it and I haven't. My SD card ran out of space like the last clip talked about. So I'm here now, a day later, to finish this video. I'm very excited. I'm having so much fun just talking about every book I read. This is why I filmed this video, because I want to go over all the books and like my thoughts and feelings. But when I read 76 books, that's a lot of books to talk about, and it takes up a lot of time. So I'm going to try and kind of do a mix of both where I talk about them, but maybe not take so long, because I still have a lot of books left. That's just the physical ones I own, and I know I don't fully own everything, like have everything with me. So yeah, we'll we'll go from there and we'll do the thing and I will talk about them. So then I read The Unhoneymooners after it was like gonna be in my like summer vlog, but then I decided to like not have it in my summer reading vlog. So yeah, this is the first Christina Lauren book I've read since Love and Other Words. I like took like a year and a half break off. So now I tried The Unhoneymooners and it wasn't my favorite. I rated it 3.75 stars. I liked it, but then like it just wasn't my favorite. It felt a little fast paced. It felt like there were like things between the characters, but they went from enemies to lovers a little too quickly in my opinion. I think forced proximity is going to help with that situation, but I don't think it's going to immediately make you want to jump into bed with each other when you hate each other, even if like maybe it was a little just misunderstanding and miscommunication. It wasn't my favorite. So now I'm still sitting with Christina Lauren with a weird taste in my mouth because I'm like, maybe I like a few of their books, but they're not like my author, or maybe they are my author and just there's a couple flops. I think both are allowed. So I just don't know what to do about Christina Lauren. But that's a goal for 2025, is to see if there's still an author that I like. Next, I read Cursed Fates. This is the 5th book in the Zodiac Academy series, ZA, like I've been calling it. So I loved this book. The ending of the 4th book helped me jump into this one, and I was like frustrated the entire time because I'm like, why'd you do that, you character? You're stupid. Why'd you do that? Just be happy together, without like saying too much that spoils it. I was really in love with everything that was happening in this book. I was very invested. I was very drawn in because I wanted to know how things were going to play out and if they were going to play out the way I wanted them to. But then the ending of the book scared me a lot for the next book, just for things that are gonna like might happen, and I don't like how things ended and I'm scared now. And I heard that like book 7 from my friends is like that ending is like horrible, and like, or at least I'm gonna sob at the ending of book 7, and so like I'm worried about book 6 and book 7, and so I'm just nervous. I'm just nervous to jump into it. But the goal is to finish ZA this year and to hopefully do the sequel series. We're just gonna kind of see. I didn't want to jump into it because it made me mad at the end of book 5. So that was the last ZA book I read of this year. I did try and pick up because like after this book there is a novella from a party that happened previous to this point, from 2 different other characters' POVs that we didn't get during that like in the main book. So I tried to read it, but I just wasn't in the mood for it, and I like read like an hour of it, and it's like a 3-hour book. I don't even know. I just couldn't get through it. So the goal is to start that one, then to start 6, see how I'm feeling with each book, and if I just keep getting angry and angry, then I won't finish it. But I'm hoping it's gonna be one of those situations where it's like you go into it with this and you get twisted on your head and it goes this direction. But it's definitely getting more serious for ZA. Definitely not as like the first book to book 5 is a drastic, like you care so much about these characters now, which is awesome. Cursed Fates, I did 4.5 stars, and then that 5 was just like the 0.5 was just knocked out because of the ending. The next book I read finally was Fourth Wing. I rated this bitch 5 stars. This book is so good. I have a really bad connection with books being popular on social media because I've just been let down by a lot of them, or a lot of recommendations to me, and maybe I just was following the wrong people. I had the wrong kind of For You page. I don't know what's going on, but I was really worried to read this book because of how much it blew up on social media. And it lived up to the hype so well. This book is so good. Onyx Storm comes out in like 4 days. No, it comes out in 2 or 3, depending on when you're getting it. It is Saturday for me. I'm going to the midnight release party on Monday, and then I'm gonna get it that night. So I'm technically on midnight at Tuesday. So it's like 3 days. I'm so excited, but I'm also not excited because I can't read it. That's not the point of this video, but love this. The ending of this book, immediately had to go buy Iron Flame the next day because I needed to know what happened, because I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Good shit. I liked Fourth Wing better than Iron Flame. We'll get into Iron Flame in a minute, but it was good. It made me feel like I was reading Sarah J Maas, and that is the kind of fantasy I've been missing recently, and it made me happy. It made me fun. I read this so fast. 5 stars. Definitely worth the hype, and I can just see why it was blown up, because it genuinely is good and deserved the hype. So I love this book. So like I was just saying, I had to immediately go buy Iron Flame. So I had the library book for both, but I wanted to follow along and read. So the next book I read was Iron Flame. I rated this 4.75 stars. There's just a little bit of gripe with this book. I can see why people don't like it, but for the most part, I really enjoyed this book. The first part was really frustrating because of like separations between characters, and like, I just was like, bro, can we chill? But I think that one of the characters' reactions was valid to one of the other characters, just kind of going the way he was going. I was like, bro, just tell her. Like, why are we doing this back and forth game? Now that I've like finished it and heard some theories, I can maybe see why. So I'm really excited to read Onyx Storm to see if that kind of helps explain certain things in this book. But the ending of this book, I went to like Bear Lake for a day, and I was like, I want to chill and read at the beach. That sounds so fun. I read like a little bit on the way there, and I just felt like I was like literally end of book. Like maybe this much to this much. Like I literally was so close to finishing the book, and I just had this weird feeling that I should wait until I got home. I don't know. I just was like things were getting intense. It's like there's a battle happening, and I just was like, I don't trust to read this in public. I need to go home. And I finished it. When I got home, sobbed. They were angry tears. They were upset tears. I'm upset by this ending because I'm like, how could you do that, Rebecca? How could you do that? So I'm really stressed for book 3 to see how this goes into that. I'm a little nervous because book 3 is shorter than Iron Flame. Iron Flame is a big book though, so maybe we need that, but also that means the less content and I have to wait for the next book to come out. I'm so glad I read this at the time I did, because then I would have had to keep waiting. Love this book as well. I just am so glad I jumped into the series because it's definitely worth the hype. As someone who was a skeptic, absolutely go read it if you're nervous to read it, because I personally loved it. If you're in the mood for something that's going to keep you entertained, keep you hooked, things are happening. Definitely action-based, definitely keep you intrigued. I don't trust the author at all. Because she just does shit that I'm just like, I don't trust you. I don't trust you. So the next I read, Rally. I found this book because I was on Audible trying to see if the audiobook version of books on my wish list on Audible were the way I was going to read it. Because sometimes I go into an audio and I'm like, I don't like this narrator at all, and it takes away the story, and I would rather read it myself than listen to the audiobook and have it taken away. I've had some library books like that, and I was like, on Audible, I'm not going to buy a book that I'm not going to read. So one of the narrators from the other series on my wish list narrated this book, and when I was listening to the narration, because it was just like a sample of the book, I was like, wait, this book sounds so much fun. It's a surprise pregnancy, college romance book, and I like check. Sports romance, check. College romance, check. Surprise pregnancy, check. Like, it literally just hit all the buttons, and the way the first part of it gripped me was so fun. Loved this book. Loved this book so much. I rated it 4 stars. Remember, I think I had a little bit of gripe with the romance, but it was cute. I can't remember fully about everything that it was about. This one was just fun. I really enjoyed this one. And if you want kind of that trope, definitely check this book out. I definitely want to try some more books by this author for sure. Next, I read The 15th Minute. I finally finished the series. It was kind of hard because I was reading like Off Campus, then I was reading Rally, and then I was reading The 15th Minute, and these are all college sports romances, especially the Off Campus and like those series from Elle Kennedy and The 15th Minute by Serena Bowen. And so I was kind of getting like timeline and characters all mixed up, because I also had read like Icebreaker, and there was just a lot of college hockey romances happening at the same time. But this was from a series that I love that I just hadn't finished yet. It's a free book series on Audible that comes with like the Plus catalog. And I was like, I just want to read this book. I want to finish it. I would like to just kind of have it like, I love this series, but not have to worry about it very much anymore. And I was in the mood to read it, so I read it. Loved this book. I love this book. This book and the second book I think are my favorites. So good. Both Serena Bowen and Elle Kennedy can write college romances and college hockey romances. And then I learned they're friends. And then I learned that they collab books together. So I'm just gonna be reading way more of that in 2025. I'm just gonna be I'm gonna read all their backlogs, because I was like, what do you mean? There's a book that they both write? Yes, I love both of these authors. Let's fucking go. So that's next year for sure. So I rated this 4-star, definitely liked it. This one had some, just like Elle Kennedy, like Serena Bowen can kind of just have like, it's this cute little hockey sports romance, college romance, but there is some deeper things to do, and the main character of this book was dealing with allegations towards him, and like he's like, I didn't do it, but no one believes him, and so then he was starting to fall for this girl, and he's like, I can't be with you, because then if this comes out and you realize this, you're not going to want to be with. It was just this kind of whole situation, and it was really good though. It added drama, it added intrigue. I was like, how is this going to play out? But it was really good, and I loved this character. So then we started the Briar U series. So the Briar U series is the spin-off series of Off Campus. It starts with the sister of one of the boys from Off Campus. This book was good. This book was really good. I didn't like it as much as some of the other ones. There's another book, 2 books, 3 books in this series that I like better. But this one was cute. This one was cute, and I liked the ending. There's like a scene where her brother finds out, and it's a good scene. It's a good scene, and I like that her brother was involved, because Dean's one of my favorite characters in Off Campus, and it's a good time. It's a good time. I rated this 4.5 stars, close to 5, but I think a little bit of the romance bothered me, or something about this book wasn't quite 5 stars, but it was still really good. So then I was like, why read other books when I could just read the next book in the series? So then I read The Risk, Jake Connolly. So this is about Jake Connolly from a rival school, and him falling in love with the coach's daughter from Briar. I read this book way too fast. I was like, why? Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, I need to reread this book because I read it so fast. I read this 4.5 stars as well. I liked it better than The Chase, but they have the same rating. It's good. It's good. It's good. The ending of this is really good. There's a lot of, I love this. Love this. Jake Connolly. So it's Garrett Graham, and then it's probably Jake Connolly or Hunter, or like, there's a couple, then there's Dean. They're all good, but good book. So then I had the same exact thought, and I'm like, why read another series when I can just read the next book? So this one's The Play. This is about Hunter. I was having a hard time because I think there's a Hunter in Icebreaker, and the characters were like mixing up, and I was like, when did Hunter get introduced in Off Campus? So then I had to like scroll, and I was like, I was making me a little hyper focused on it, but this book is just as good. The relationship's really cute. Hunter has sworn off sex because he thinks it's affecting his playing for college, and now that he's the team's captain now, he's like, I gotta take things seriously. But this one was so cute. I really like Demi. I really like Hunter. This one's really cute. I rated this also a 4.5 stars. They're all just like same amount of love, same love it. They're not quite the 5 stars because I just think the Off Campus series is just a little bit better. I think I like that friend group a little bit more. All these boys are included in that friend group besides Jake because he's rival man. But he is included in Off Campus. He has little cameos. It's good. Like, it's still the same friend group that the boys from Off Campus had, but it's not like the main 4 boys of Off Campus. Like, all the main 4 boys were all best friends, while these were friends and also hockey players on their team. So it wasn't as, I feel like, as close-knit. Also, sorry if you hear this weird noise in the background. My heater's picking up now, so I apologize that is now part of the video. It's cold outside, and I don't want to turn off my heater. Anyways, good. So then I was like, hey, I've read 3 college romances and like back right after reading rally. Like, it was just 4 college romances really close together, so I was like, we need to change things up. Also, it was October at this point, and I was like, you know what, let's read. I was wanting to film like a spooky Halloween reading vlog, and though I did read some spookier books, I just like didn't want to film, so I didn't film that. So the first book one of the first books I read in October is The Coworker. I like this book. It's been on my TBR for a really long time, so I was like, might as well read it. Mysteries have a hard time, and like thrillers and stuff, I definitely have a hard time more reading because I haven't read very many of them. Though I like them, I don't think I like every single one of them, and so I haven't read enough to figure out, to know what my taste is. And so for mystery and thrillers, I know I'm gonna like it, but I'm also like, am I gonna like it? Am I not? Am I in the mood to read that? So that's something I struggle with. This one kind of added onto that struggle because I like this book, but I didn't love this book. So it's 3.5 stars. It definitely keeps you entertained, but there were some crazy plot twist, and I was like, what is happening? I don't know what about it like kind of disconnected me from my book, but it wasn't my favorite, but I liked it. It's like a weird, I don't know, definitely like liked enough that I want to try more by this author, but it wasn't one of my favorite, which like I hear this is a really good mystery and thriller writer, and so I just like, it was just not what I wanted it to be. So then I read A Good Girl's Guide to Murder. I own this book and I've been needing to read it for a really long time, so I was like, mystery, Halloween, let's go. I loved this book. I rated this book 5 stars. Loved this book. The mystery kept me so intrigued. It was just, I don't know, it was so good. The plot twisted. I was not expecting. I did not call the ending of this book. Okay, so like the next book that I read isn't the next book in this series, which I'm kind of wishing that I did keep reading the series, but the ending kind of like is weird because the whole mystery of this book got solved. So the book felt like it ended. I was like, why do we need more in this series? But there were like little questions that she had discovered while figuring out the murder mystery that she was like, that's sus, but that wasn't included in the murder mystery. It sounds like there's some bigger other things going on. So it sounds like it starts from a small mystery up to bigger things that happen in the town. And so we didn't quite figure out all of the little mysteries, but we figured out the main mystery. So I kind of had a hard time like, okay, but the mystery is solved though. So why do I guess I want some of those other questions answered, but I love this book enough that I was like, okay, maybe I should try more, because I was like, I really like this author's writing. It just felt like the end of a book, so I wasn't tempted. Also, it's not a romance book, and so I was a little annoyed that at the very end, this is a little bit of spoiler, so if you don't want the spoiler, skip forward, that the characters end up together, and it's like this time skip, like she figures out the mystery, time skip, she's like being thanked for figuring out the mystery, I think, and then she's with the character. So she's not with the character before the time skip, is with the character after the time skip, and I shipped them the entire book, and so to not get any kind of like on-page information about them getting together was frustrating because I'm a romance reader, and so I was like, I think I like romance more than I like mystery, but I really like this book because of the mystery. So I was just a little bit upset because I was like, just give me one scene of them being like, I like you. I don't know, like I didn't need the main book of this to be about the romance. I was okay without it being the romance, but then when it actually like happened and it wasn't on page, it kind of annoyed me just a little bit, but not enough that I like brought down the rating. I was like, for the mystery, what the book is supposed to be at, really good. So I need to finish the series. That's the goal for next year. Like one of the first kind of books I read is to finish the series so that I can like know what happens. But I like this writing a lot, and I was intrigued the entire time. I definitely like this better than The Coworker. So then I read my second ever Ali Hazelwood book, and I loved this shit. This is another 5-star. I was like, 5-star, 5-star. This book was so good, and it makes me want to read more urban fantasy like this. It makes me want to read more vampire books, and it makes me want to read more werewolf books. And this one is a vampire werewolf romance. I did want a little bit more out of the werewolf. It felt a little bit tamed down when it came to the fantasy element because it was urban fantasy, and I wanted there to be, because like there are wolf shifters in this book, and I just needed more of that wolf shifting. Like there was a couple scenes with it, but it was definitely way more focused on the vampire aspect and like them like they're just romance stuff, which was great. Like there was werewolf romance aspects, don't get me wrong. It was good, and it made me be like, wait, I want to read way more werewolf romances. But yeah, love this, love the romance, love the main characters. It was good. It was good. And the fact there was a little mystery thrown into this, very good. Very good. I had read a contemporary romance by this author, and I think this is her first fantasy book, and I loved it, so it makes me want to finish the rest of her backlog. Love this book. So then the next book, I needed kind of just like a simpler book. Like I had some really good 5 stars. I had some decent ones. So I was like, let me read another Caraba Stone. And it was another like little 4-hour book. And I was like, this is the perfect kind of keep up the momentum, so I'm not overwhelming myself. But then I'm not like not reading. So I rated this 5 stars. It was Love at First Sight. This is also a little college book. I had a college romance year. I didn't even realize it was, but it was cute. The way that it was recorded and like the way that the book was made was really fun. It's about these students having to do this assignment together, and it's like about their psych class and like love and whether love at first sight exists and things like that. And it was really cute because one of the characters believes in love at first sight and one of the other characters doesn't believe in love sight, and they end up together. But it was cute. I love this book. Another banger from Caraba Stone, 5 stars. Good shit. So then I was like, college romance, let's keep up it. So I finished the Bride You series with The Dare. This one was so fun. I rated this 4.5 stars again. It's a 4.5 series. This one was really fun. So we had a character that was introduced in Hunter's book, the book 3, and it's his romance with a girl that's introduced as well. So we had 2 new characters thrown into the story. But this one was really fun though. The character in this is enough friends with Hunter. His name is Connor. And the idea of this book is really cute. The idea of how they could become friends, and it's like this fake dating situation. And it's cute. It's cute and I liked it. I thought it was a really cute way to end the series. So the next book I did own, but I sold it because I didn't like it that much. So it's Autumn's Tithe, and I rated this 3.5 stars. I liked this book. It was a good book, but it was like not giving me everything I wanted. The ideal was there, but I felt like it just didn't hit all the plot points. The ending was good. Like the cliffhanger, I was like, what? And so it made me kind of tempted to keep reading, but I dead ass could not remember what character was what, to the point where I had to write a little list to be like, this character is the one with this hair, this character is the one with this hair. Like I kept mixing it up, and it was good, it just wasn't my favorite. So I rated this 3.5 stars. It was good, but I was like, I don't like it enough to want to keep the book, because I went through this unhauling a little while ago that's going to be in a future video, and I was just like, I didn't like it enough to want to keep it. So I don't have it anymore. I might be intrigued to finish the next book from just the library and read it that way, but I don't know, it just wasn't my absolute favorite. But you know what was my absolute favorite? The next book after this. So when I decided to read Autumn's Tithe, I was like, you know, I don't know what to read, but I want to read. So I just like kept listening to samples of audiobooks, and if something intrigued me, then I decided to pick it up. So it was between Autumn's Tithe and Book Lovers when I was reading Autumn's Tithe. So I decided to read Autumn's Tithe. Good, not my favorite. And then I was like, you know what I am gonna read, because it was another book I was tempted to do. Book Lovers. So fucking glad I did this. So this is my 3rd ever Emily Henry book. This one finally hit all the beat points. 5 fucking stars. Not this 5.75 stars, because it didn't quite, the ending was perfect, the middle was perfect, the beginning was perfect. I don't know, I love this book. I don't know what about it. I don't know if it's because she's just like writing more and becoming a better author. I don't fucking know, but this book was bomb. This book was banger. I loved everything about it. I was hooked. I couldn't put it down. It was so fucking good, and it made me so excited to read other Emily Henry books. I was just so being like, yes, we finally everything hit for this book, because I was like, I really like this author and I like the romances she made. It's just the ending of the last 2 books I read just weren't quite what I wanted. This one was. This one was. I love the main love interest in this book. The boy, the girl, they're just all good. It's all good. I love the premise of this book as well. It was good shit. Highly recommend. Oh my gosh, we only have 1 stack left. Just this one, and then anything that I don't own would be in the next. So I was in a banger. I was like, yes, yes, yes. So now we're into the month where it was my biggest reading month of the year, and I think it's because I just kept reading some series, and I actually finished one series, was gonna do this other series. So we're just gonna do the next 3 books all together. I don't know why I didn't do this for any of the other books, because I did have some of the series, but I read the Defy the Night series. I don't know if you can read it because of the glare. This shit fucking slapped. This shit was so fucking good. I don't know what about it. I don't know, like, this is a really good YA series. Like, it gave me everything I was wanting. It gave me action. It gave me romance. I was nervous to pick up this series in the first place because I was like, oh, I heard that it's a closed door. Sometimes closed doors piss me off, especially since we've just been following along with the character the whole time. We got to see them hold hands, kiss, fall in love. Why aren't we getting out stages? But I was like, it is a YA book, so I'm like, I get why it wouldn't have spice, but I was just like, I usually like spice, but I was like, I need to chill with the spice because not everything is about sex. So I was like, you know what, let's pick this book up. And I read it at a perfect time where I wasn't really needing it, and it was just, oh, it was so good. So I read this, I think later in the series I started getting sick, so I read one of these books in like so fast. Like, I read 12 hours a day because I was like, I am really feeling sick, and so just reading in bed was the perfect remedy. A perfect fantasy series. So I read this one, not perfect fantasy series, but it was a good. There was a little bit about it that I didn't like, but it was really cool, and I liked the brothers, and I liked the main character, and it was good shit. It was good shit. So I rated this one 4.5 stars. I rated Defy the Dawn 4.5 stars. And then I rated Destroy the Day 5 stars. This one slapped. This is the one I think that I read within, like, I read it like 12 hours. It's the biggest book. It's good. It's good. So much happens in this book. The ending of this book stressed me out. I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? But I was like happy about something. Then I was like, what do you mean about other thing? And it's just, this one we get an extra POV, and it's just, it was so good. This series is basically about, there's like this plague going around that's killing people, and it's about these outlaws stealing medicine from the royals to give it to the poor. It's like a Robin Hood situation. Good shit. It's definitely one of my favorite, like, why, like, I've been thinking about it. Like, I keep thinking about it. Like, it was just so good. There's just like everything. Like, it's just good. It's just good. Highly recommend. So then started up this virtual book club that's been really fun. So I started it in, I think, September. We had our first book in October, and then we read it, like we discussed about it in November. We had the thing, but I was really busy and I was reading other things. And so the day before the call, I read Guild. This was our book club book. And what is going on with this book? I rated this 2.5 stars. I did not like this book. I did not like this book. We talked about it in our book club. It just, I don't know why. There's this weird, I don't know. I don't like it. I don't like it. But then I read Glint, which is the second book, and it got so much better. I was like, why was book one needed? Because this is where the story should have started. Book one is basically just throwing all this trauma at the character, and then the rest of the series was her kind of dealing with the trauma, but then I don't think it's taken as seriously as it should be. I don't know. I don't know. I read book one, which was 2.5 stars. I read book two, which was 4 stars, so it was definitely a jump. Then I read book three, and I DNF'd it in the middle of it because, like, things happen and it made me realize some things. So I was like, I don't know if I like the series and the way things are playing out. I don't know. I don't know. So I'm not thinking about this series for a while, and I'm just going to try and pick it up again if I'm in the mood to, but I have this just weird gripe ick with the series right now. It's such a big popular series, but I just don't like the weird kind of like dealing with the essay, I feel. I don't know. Definitely has this weird kind of vibe about the sex in my opinion. Maybe it's just that I haven't read the full series and things get better and more explained, and like her trauma's handled really well later maybe, but like from what I'm reading and where I'm at, the trauma I don't think is being taken as seriously as it should be. So yeah, I still have a weird ick with this book, so just bear with me. I'm so sorry. I could rant about it, but that was kind of my situation with that. Have that on pause. We'll see if I finish it. We'll just kind of pick it up, but I have technically DNF'd the third book. So then I finished A Light in the Flame. I had this started, I think, in October, and then I just was like bored for a minute. I don't know. I just think I wasn't in the mood for fantasy. And so I like paused it, and I was like, you know what? I didn't have a really good time with the Plated Prisoner series, so I was like, maybe let's pick up a fantasy series I know I will like. This book is so good. The ending has me stressed. I don't know how this series is going to play out to be where it is in From Blood and Ash. I don't understand. Like, I just need to keep reading. I have the audiobook version. I just don't have the physical version. I rated this 4 stars. Loved it. I don't think I liked it as much as the first one, because like the romance was happening, but then it was like paused, and then like it was like more like sexual but not romantic. It was like weird because there's like betrayal happening in the first book, and then like this one there is still that untrust, but they're also trusting each other with their bodies. I don't know. It was just kind of took it away from me a little bit. There are some times when the sex in the Jennifer L. Armentrout series is too much. There is definitely a lot of spice in this series and the last series, and I think maybe at one point I like remember when I had taken my break, I had paused in the middle of after a spicy happened. I was like, I am spiced out for a second. So that's why I took a pause, but definitely really like it. Can't wait to continue the series. So I have 12 books left, but my camera's about to die, so I'm going to charge my camera a little bit more, and I will come back with the rest of the books I read. Okay, on to the final stretch of the video with the last 12 books that I have read. I have plenty of battery now, so let's get into it. So the next book that I read was To Get Me to You. There's something called like Stuff Your Kindle, but there's also an audiobook version, and so there was this one time I learned about it and I was like, oh my gosh, free audiobooks, yes please. And so I got like all these audiobooks, and then I completely forgot about them. Luckily they were free, so I didn't have to pay anything on them, but yeah, I completely forgot about about them. I just like had remembered them, put them in my Goodreads, and I was like, maybe I should try one. So one, I was kind of in the mood for like a Hallmarky small town kind of romance, and so that's what this book was. I rated it 3 stars. It wasn't my favorite. There were aspects I liked. Like I liked the small town aspect and like them kind of trying to save the town. That was really fun, but the romance was a little too fast-paced for me. I didn't feel like there was any chemistry between them, and they like kissed on like the first day they met. I'm not a really good insta-lovey type of person. I need some kind of slow burn or tension at least. And yes, I was in the mood for Hallmarky kind of like small town, but I was in like the mood for Hallmarky small town with like some like good romance. I don't know. That was just kind of my feelings on that. And then I told my coworker that I like to read, and she's like, I like to read, and I'm like, I'm interested in like reading some more thrillers, and that's all she reads. So like one day she brought in 2 books for me to read, and I've read one of them so far, and it's called Rock, Paper, Scissors. I liked it, but I didn't like it. I wanted to like it more than it did. I want it to be more, it like gave like this vibe that it's like was way more spooky than it was, and I kind of wanted it to be the spooky, but everything kind of been like had an explanation for it, and I was like, wait, no, I want them to be in a spooky cabin. But like by the end I was like, the plot twist was shocking. I was like, bro, what do you mean I was shocked, I will say that. But it didn't keep me really intrigued. It didn't feel super thrilled, like it didn't keep me on the edge of my seat, because like it would do all of these like jump scare kind of scares, but then it would quickly explain them afterwards, and it just didn't feel very scary once it started to explain that, oh, these are just simple things. I wanted there to be spooky. I wanted them to kind of being chased around this, like, how, I don't know, I wanted more thriller aspect than mystery aspect, and I got more mystery than thriller. So yeah, I rated this 2 stars. So I guess oh no, I rated this 2.5 stars. So the next was the second sequel series. I don't know what you call this series. It's a skip forward for 20 years. So Garrett Graham is in book 1 of the Off Campus series. 20 years in the future, we have the Graham effect about his daughter. This book, Garrett Graham as a dad, please help me. It's not like that he's in this book very much, but he's there. And I love that this book was about 2 hockey players. She's a hockey player, and so is he. And so that was really cool. I was a little surprised. There was this one scene that I was really excited for, where they kind of like bring all the characters back for like this Christmas Eve thing. And she was like telling like the love interest about it, and he was like super excited to join, and they skipped over it. And as a fan, I would have really loved that scene. I get it, you probably can't keep it because like they can read this book without reading the other series, but then like in the second book, I feel like the characters were more involved in that book than this book, and this is literally the daughter of one of the main guys, and we didn't get to see them as much as I would have hoped for. So that was my one disappointment with this book, but everything else was amazing. It was 5 stars. The romance was really cute. It was good. It's a thick book. Like this is probably one of the thicker ones, and it was really fun, and I really liked it. And I'm really happy I was able to read this when I've been like putting this off for a minute, because I was like, I need to finish Briar U before I can read this. Okay, anyways, so then and then I was like, absolutely, I'm gonna go into the next one, and that is the Dixon Rule. This is about Gigi's best friend and one of the hockey players from the team that's currently now, which I love that there's the same coach, by the way, 20 years later, still same coach, love that. But yeah, so we have and he talks about grandkids, and I'm like, I know whose kids those are. Anyways, so we have the Dixon Rule. This one was really fun as well. Again, another book where like deeper things, like she's being like stalked by her ex-boyfriend, like not love that. He's dealing with stuff. There was a really sad scene in this book with him and his family. I was like, proud as fun, I read this cute hockey romance and all this shit keeps going wrong. So they hate each other. She is a cheerleader and he's a hockey player, and she's really close friends with a hockey player, so she has nothing against the hockey player aspect. It's just that he keeps sleeping with her cheerleader teammates, and it keeps messing up their practice, and she's like really sick of this like kind of playboy attitude. So we kind of just like get to see their romance. Oh, I didn't read the Dixon Rule right after the Graham effect. We'll get into that in a minute. I read the Dixon Rule 5 stars as well, so this so far is a 5-star series, so that's pretty promising. So in between these 2 books, I read my book club book for November, and it was Powerless by Lauren Roberts and Powerful as a tandem read. I'm gonna have a controversial opinion real fast. I rated both of these 3 stars and I did not like Powerless. I liked Powerful. Powerful was fun. The ending pissed me off because I didn't know what was gonna happen, because I didn't read Powerless before. Powerless had potential. I think Powerless was too focused on, it felt like the author came up with all these trope scenes and then had to fill a plot in around it. That's what it felt like. It felt like all these tropes. Then the romance was there, but it also wasn't there. Like they didn't even kiss, but they were really into each other, like insta-lovey into each other, but then their romance was slow. I don't get it. I don't understand. I was kind of interested to go into the next book, Reckless, but then I hear from everyone that Reckless is even more boring and I was bored in Powerless, so I don't even want to go into another book. So I have sold Powerless now at this point. I don't know, I wanted to like it, and it had the ideas. I think Kai was not written very well. I wanted to really like Kai, but he was not a morally gray person. You can't say someone's morally gray and then immediately show that they're a good person. Like everyone says that Kai's so hot and all this kind of stuff, and I'm like, he's really like not. I don't know, I wanted to like it. I wanted to like their relationship, and there were some scenes I fangirled over, don't get me wrong, but it just wasn't my favorite. So I can see why people liked it. I think it's a good starter fantasy series. Like I can see why people who've never read fantasy before read that book and got into fantasy. It was a fun aspect and I did like the magic system in the world. It just wasn't my favorite, but I did like Powerful more. Like I liked that relationship, was cute as shit. That one had tension and I did ship them. And then the end of the book happens and I'm like, what? So I think I'm DNFing the series. I'm gonna ask my friend what the big plot twist at the end of book 2 is that I've heard about, but I don't think I'm interested in finishing it. Anyways, there's my little Powerless rant. I'm so sorry if you liked it. I gave it 3 stars. It was right in the middle, but I was bored. And I don't think you should be bored while reading a book or bored while reading a fantasy book that's supposed to be kind of actiony. It didn't feel very actiony to me. Like there were action, but it wasn't, I don't know. It was weird. So then it was December and I was like, Christmas time, let's read all the Christmas books. I read Nick and Noelle's Christmas Playlist. This is a free book on also the Audible Plus catalog. And I've had this on my library for a while because I was like, it's Christmas book, I gotta read in the Christmas time, which I think I'm gonna just try and chill out from that. I think I'm gonna read a book when I wanna read a book, not because of the season. I think I focused on that way too much last year and the year before that. So I rated this 4 stars. It was cute. I think the ending kind of like ruined it. It's cute because it was like this friends to lovers, but I think the issue that I had with it is that it wasn't enough friends before the lovers. Like this guy was at boot camp and then he comes back like after years and years being at boot camp and only seeing his best friend every once in a while, to now that he's back for officially good, and she's like, because she's never looked at him like differently than a best friend, but I guess now that he's officially back, she's starting to be like, and I just think I love best friends to lovers. I think it's a really cute trope, but we need to have more friendships before the lovers part. Because I'm like, you've been best friends for 10 years, and he has been in a relation. It just was like, it was just like the romance itself wasn't the best, but the characters were cute. I just felt myself not fully loving him, but I did rate it 4 stars. I just didn't feel myself getting super gripped about the characters. I also, at this point, was really burnt out with reading, but because I am taking a break for reading in all of January, I was like, oh my god, I only have a month left, I need to read, because I'm not gonna be able to read for a month, which, chill Angela, it's fine, but I should have just taken month of December and January off and read a little bit in December. And so I think that was affecting the books I read because I just was burnt out. I had read 11 books and I just needed a break, and I didn't let myself have a break because I was like, oh my god, I only have a month left until the end of the year, and then like I'm taking a break. So I was stressed. So then I read A Princess for Christmas. I rated this 3 stars. It was another Christmas book. I liked it. I just had some, I don't know, I had some gripes about it. It was cute though. It was cute. It was just a basic cute little romance, and I liked the characters. I liked the characters. I just was like, I don't know. By the end I was just kind of like bored and I wanted to be done. But it was more Hallmarky-esque than the other one. I thought it was cute. So then I read, oh, I had this book. This is the Noelle and Nick's Christmas Plays. So then I read another Frida McFadden book. So I read this book because I'm part of another book club that's on Facebook, and I was like, oh my gosh, I need to read something so that I don't get, because like you need to stay active in that group book club or you kind of get removed because they want it to be not like this book club that's 10,000 people and like barely anybody like talks in it, or it's too overwhelming to talk in it. So they have like a lot of different things you can do, which is really fun. So some of these books were for the little tic-tac-toe board that I had. One book, like there were 2 books that were for discussions, and The Boyfriend by Frida McFadden was one of them. So I read The Coworker, didn't love it as much. Read The Boyfriend, fucking loved this book. It was 5 stars, super fun. I like read some reviews and they were like, this is actually not one of my favorite Frida McFadden. And I was like, I don't know what drugs I was on. I don't know like what, if it was just like right book, right time. I don't know, but I loved this book. This book was so fun. I don't know, the twist was crazy. It was intriguing because I was like, I like this guy, but he also might be a murderer, so I don't like him. And I had all these theories and they kept being like thrown out because I was like, oh, well, that's not the case anymore. And it just was really good. And I liked that it kind of built up to her like starting to date the guy, because when you read it, it kind of sounds like it's an immediate thing. But I kind of like that it builds up to it. And like there was a murder that I was not expecting to happen. And like the plot twist was crazy. And then I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean? Was very invested, and this is kind of like the mystery thriller that I was into. I don't know, it just hit all my buttons. It just was great. It was really fun. So I have 3 books left, and I have every single one of them here with me. So then I read Under the Surface. I remember seeing this book, it being advertised on social media for a pre-leasing option, and I like read the description and I was like, I want to read that right now. And then it wasn't out yet, and I was like, what the fuck do you mean it's not out? So basically this book is a YA book about a girl who gets stuck in the catacombs, and the boy she likes is trying to find her and find what happened to her, because so she goes into the catacombs with a group of friends. They don't tell anyone where they're going, and so they have no idea they're in the catacombs, and they're like, fuck, we can't get out of the catacombs. And it was crazy. It wasn't as, I don't know, this book is crazy because it's intense as fuck, because they're like towards the end and stuff, like you start running into issues that like you weren't expecting to have issues, and being like other people down there, and it's just like fucking crazy. But then I didn't feel fully gripped the whole time. Like I felt like there was stuff happening, but I felt like it wasn't as gripping as I wanted it to be. But I still rated this 4 stars. I think I just wanted a little bit more out of it. I think the idea was really fun. This book was really good still. I think the idea was better than what the execution was, if that makes sense. But like not by a lot. Like it was still a good book. I just think it wasn't what I was expecting it to be, and that kind of changed it. But this, like the twist at the end, crazy. But yeah, the second I realized that it had come out, I was like, I want to read that. So then I read our next book club book for December. This is a book that I just found and I put it on the poll and everyone picked it. So we read 'Tis the Season for Revenge. I think this was a really popular TikTok book or Instagram book, and I liked it, but I didn't like it. It's hard to say. So I gave this 3.5 stars. Also, this is my only ebook of the year. I listened to the audiobook and I was like, I hate this. Like the sample, and I was like, I hate this. So I read it on ebook, and it's embarrassing for me to see how small this book is and how long it took me to read. It's because I'm becoming lazy and just listening to audiobooks. Anyways, I like the characters in this book. I like the guy in this book, but we added a really toxic like boyfriend that we're getting revenge on, and I don't think it was as handled as correctly as it could have been. I had this huge conversation with our book club people, and we were all kind of on the same idea. I think it would have been better if they hadn't made the ex-boyfriend so toxic. They made him so toxic and then didn't give enough time to kind of deal with that toxicity. But what I loved about the main love interest is that he was helping her get over that like toxicness that the ex-boyfriend gave her, and it was just good. The only other thing that I didn't really fully like about this, it was kind of insta-lovey, and especially since she just got out of a toxic relationship and starts dating someone immediately after, which kind of was weird. And there's a giant age gap between the love interests, and that's not usually my thing. So that one was another issue of mine. We have 1 book left, my last book of the year. So I read this, I finished this on the 31st. And so I was like, okay, book club done. I had to read it by the 31st because on the 1st, no more books. Sorry, I had spent all like morning reading this one, and I was like, okay, I have a little bit left of this one. And then I also finished The Blood Spell on the 31st. which I am so proud of myself for doing, because this series was started 2 years ago, and I loved every book in that series, and I just never picked this one up. And this is a Cinderella retelling, and growing up, Cinderella was my favorite princess, and I just never finished, like, read it, and I was like, what the fuck is wrong with me? So I rated this 4 stars. I kind of wish I would have read it similar to the other Ravenspire series, because then I was kind of like trying to remember. But one of my favorite couples makes a cameo a little bit in this book, but the guy doesn't, but he's mentioned, and she's like, loved that. But I wish I would have remembered the world a little bit better, because basically this series, which is a really cool, like, I've never read a fantasy series like this before. It's an interconnected standalone fantasy series where each book is a fairy tale retelling, and it's taking place in different kingdoms of this universe. So like the first one is a Snow White retelling told in Ravenspire, and then it kind of just bounces around to all these other characters. This character, the prince in this character, was the roommate of the character in the 3rd book, and that's why I was kind of disappointed, because I didn't I liked that book, but it hasn't like stuck in my brain as much as the 2nd book did, and so I didn't really fully remember like their connection and who this character was for a minute. And then I was like, oh, it's him. I wish I would have like read it a little bit sooner, but I think I was just burnt out or something, and I just didn't. But I finished it, and I finally finished the series, and I'm good, and I'm intrigued to read more by this author, so she's definitely on my backlog. But yes, really fun, same as just the other ones, this YA series that has a lot of shit going on, and the plot, this lady can write plot twists. Like, I was a little kind of bored during this. I rated it 4 stars, but I was a little kind of bored, but it wasn't like that bored. But like there was a lot of mystery elements in this book, like being like this. I like the way that the Cinderella story was kind of retold in this. I think my only complaint about this whole series is I wish the characters all interacted a little bit more, but they make only tiny cameos. But I know that they exist in the other kingdom. But yes, good shit. I'm really happy. But yeah, The Blood Spell was my last book of the year. This is a really long video. I'm hoping when I edit it, it gets a little shorter, but I'm so sorry. I like to yap, and if you are a fan of this channel, then that's what you signed up for, because I yap in every video. Yeah, I read 76 books this year, and I had, again, so much better of a reading year than I did last year. Like, as you can tell, everything was either 4, 3.5, or 5 stars. There was a couple 3s, couple 2s. I'm trying to get better at like rating correctly, because I always feel like I rate a little high, which is fine. If I enjoyed the book, let's rate it. I don't think there's anything wrong with giving a book a 5 star, even though it wasn't a complete masterpiece. But I don't want to give a book that I was like about a 3 or a 4 stars when I really did actually like it that much. I need to realize my reading tastes a little better. But yeah, so that's 2024, and I'm super excited for 2025. Yeah, anyways, I don't think there's anything else, and I think this video is already long enough, so I don't want to make the ending that long. But yeah, it was really fun to talk about it. I hope you enjoyed the stats. I hope you enjoyed seeing what I read this year, and I can't wait to do this again at the end of this year. But you guys have a wonderful day, and I'll see you in my next video.